But I want to introduce you to a murderer, to someone who viciously murdered his beautiful 4-year-old baby girl that they referred to as Strawberry.
Now Strawberry's father is in prison for a very long time for beating that baby girl to death. I go through the interrogation of Jacob Kubai, and you'll hear his ridiculous explanation for his baby girl's horrific injuries.
Those bruises, they don't just show up overnight. A skull fracture doesn't just show up overnight.
Welcome to Crime Fix. I'm Angenette Levy. You know, I've been covering crime for a really long time now, and there are some things you simply never, ever get used to covering. And one of them are crimes against children, especially babies. This case involves a baby. Her name was Willow Kubai, and these are photos of her from evidence gathered by investigators in the case. Willow's family actually called her Strawberry. Now, they called her Strawberry, according to text messages detectives found, because Willow was named for her older brother, who was stillborn. Can you imagine what Willow's mother is going through? Willow's father, one of two people who was supposed to love her more than anything else in this world and protect her, even give up his own life for her, instead killed her. Strawberry was just 4 months old when her father, Jacob Kubai, beat her to death. She was a helpless, defenseless baby. It happened on February 22nd, 2024 in Bartow, Florida. That's in Polk County. The police chief begins the story.
Bartow officers were dispatched to the Bartow Regional Hospital, to report of a child that was injured and had arrived in cardiac arrest. So first officers on scene made contact in the emergency room with the medical personnel there, and they were working feverishly to save this child's life. Turns out that the child is a 4-month-old little girl. Those officers, being given some information at the scene, then contacted supervision and asked for a detective. One of our detectives responded. There was not a great opportunity to get a lot of information because the whole team at the emergency room was working to save the child's life. That was a little bit after 8:30 in the evening, on Thursday evening. A helicopter was dispatched, a medical helicopter was dispatched, and the child was stabilized briefly, and then placed on the helicopter and flown to St. Joseph's Hospital in Tampa.
Text messages detectives found showed that Jacob Kubai told his wife at the hospital that he was scared and that we can't lose another one, referring to their son who was stillborn. The sheriff of Polk County, Grady Judd, he doesn't mince words. He said it didn't take his detectives long to determine that Jacob Kubai is the one who killed Strawberry.
But I want to introduce you to a murderer, to someone who viciously murdered his beautiful 4-year-old baby girl that they referred to as Strawberry. Now, it appears to me that normal society can't understand this kind of person. Well, I can tell you from a great deal of experience that a lifelong law enforcement officer can't understand this kind of person either. But here he is, Jacob Kubai. He's 22 years of age.
Sheriff Judd talked about what Jacob Kubai initially told detectives about dropping off Strawberry's mom, his wife, at work.
They dropped her off at the Texas Cattle Company in Lakeland at about 5 minutes to 5 in the afternoon. And then he went home with the baby. I might also add that Mom works also at Buffalo Wild Wings. So she's working 2 jobs, and Jacob's staying home with a baby. So he arrives at home, and he then, at about 20 minutes to, I guess it's about 20 minutes to 6 when he gets back home, he plays video games for a while. He discovers while he's fixing dinner that he doesn't have any chicken broth for the food, So he said he took the baby Strawberry and went to Walmart. He told us this. Now, we pull the video at Walmart. He has no baby. And then we watch him shop, and then he comes through the line to self-checkout with no baby. Then he goes home at about 6:54. So he's at Walmart less than 10 minutes. He said at 7:50 in the evening, about 7:50, he fed the baby and checked on her every 10 minutes. We thought that was a little strange.
So our content really shows you how important personal safety is, and that's especially true when it comes to protecting your privacy online. You would be shocked at how much of your personal information is out there, like your address and phone number. Ever wonder why you get so many spam calls and emails? That's because this information, it's all public. That's where our sponsor Incogni comes in. It's a service that helps you take control of your online privacy by removing your personal data from data brokers. Those are huge companies that sell and trade your info without your permission. Incogni actually found more than 50 brokers with my information, and here's the kicker. These data brokers have to remove you from their database if you ask them to. Now you're probably thinking, Angenette, who in the heck has time to contact a data broker? Well, that again is where Incogni comes in. They contact those companies for you to get your online safety back. You don't have to do a thing, and then they alert you after the request has been completed. After signing up, I get virtually no spam now, so I highly recommend giving Incogni a try. Right now, anyone who uses the code CRIMEFIX at incogni.com/crimefix gets 60% off. That's code CRIMEFIX at incogni.com/crimefix for 60% off an annual Incogni plan. It was very strange. So detectives went to the Kubai home and executed a search warrant. They wrapped crime scene tape around the house and found a little clutter inside. They also found surveillance video of Jacob shopping at Walmart without Strawberry. So detectives brought Jacob Kubai into the interview room.
Mr. Water, I'm going to go talk to Rebecca real quick. Just hang tight. If you need anything, just kind of peek your head out here. There should be somebody in the hallway, kind of just walking back and forth. And I'm in the bathroom right across the hall. We'll get taken care of, okay?
Jacob Kubai was in that interview room for a long time until an investigator returned.
All right, Jacob, to my understanding that you requested to speak to me. Okay. No one has forced you, coerced you, or made you come in here to talk to me. You're here in your own free will at your own request, correct?
Yep.
Okay. And you understand that you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in the court of law. You have the right to talk to a lawyer before and during any question.
Yep.
If you cannot afford to hire a lawyer, one will be appointed to represent you before any questioning if you wish. You can decide at any time to exercise these rights, not answer any questions, or make any statements. You understand those? So I've read them to you.
You still want to talk?
Yeah.
Okay. We're all ears, Jacob. Go ahead.
What Jacob Kubai begins to tell the detectives is a little odd, but it's also something some people claim.
Well, I was kind of sitting there, and I just kind of hit. Kind of a little internal conflict in a sense. Part of me is like, this is
I'm sure it's been horrible.
one thing I don't tell people, and I haven't even told them, is when, well, no, I did tell them actually. When I was younger, I used to hear noises and stuff like that. When I was a kid, I thought that was just imaginary stuff. There was one night It happened after my dad died and everything. I was laying in bed. I couldn't tell you the time, but it was dark out. This is all we got in California. I used to live. I can tell you an age, but my guess, I think I was 16 and a half. That night, I was trying to fall asleep. And that was the first time I heard a voice. It was a female voice. I'd say a rough range between my age to early 20s.
Jacob Kubai said since he was younger that he had heard voices. That's not to say it's not true. Some people actually hear voices. Kubai told detectives since he started hearing these voices, he's been obsessed with horror movies and he's had fears.
And one of the things I feared, I had a lot of fears, was sleep paralysis.
Sleep paralysis?
Yes. Or something like that. And so I kind of brushed this off as sleep paralysis. At first I couldn't hear the voice.
You brushed what off?
The whole experience I'm about to say.
Oh, okay.
Because I thought, again, over-imaginative mind, with the fact that it could have just been sleep paralysis. I heard the voice, and it was whispering. I couldn't tell what it was saying at first. And then it was getting louder and louder. And it was telling me to go ahead and kill my brother and kill my mom. Straight up. Now I don't know what that voice was. Like I couldn't recognize it. It's not from someone that I've talked to.
And how old were you when this happened?
My guess is 16 and a half because my
So
dad,
teenage years.
I believe, died in May of 2017. I can give more accurate with like a high school year. It was junior year.
Your junior year of high school.
Correct.
Were you ever held back?
Nope.
And you started kindergarten at the normal age of 5?
I started a little bit earlier because of the birthdays and everything.
Just so we can narrow it down, if you started kindergarten at 5 and then you were a junior in high school, you never get held back, we can figure out your age.
Yeah, no, I was advancing actually.
So you were good in school? You were
For the most
smart?
part. Yeah, lazy but smart.
Gotcha.
So I could have definitely gotten all A's if I wanted to, but I didn't want to put in the effort. So I got some C's here and there, but you know,
Yeah.
that's how I am. But it was getting louder and louder, and I was scared. Because obviously it's a voice telling you to kill your family, basically. And I brushed that off because that specifically never happened to me. But throughout my life, I've had experiences where I've heard voices.
Now, the detectives sit and listen to Jacob Kubai tell this story, and then they ask some questions. They are, after all, detectives.
And what do they tell you?
More towards harming myself.
To harm yourself. How often do you hear these voices? Like once a month?
I couldn't tell you the time.
Twice a year?
I wish I could.
Sometimes not at all in a year?
I know it's frequent. I can tell you.
Frequent?
Yes.
At least every month?
Again, I couldn't pinpoint, but I know that it's enough that I can notice it. You know,
Okay.
I would assume if it was happening 2 times a year, I wouldn't really bat an eye. I would think that's not a big deal.
Okay.
And being so used to it, I kind of ignored that somewhat, in a sense. But I guess like a normality, if that makes sense. I don't know if it does. I don't know if anything makes sense, but I just ever since then, I mean, just everything.
It's a lot to deal with on your own and not be able to discuss it with anybody.
The detectives listen, but you'll soon see that they are not buying a word that Jacob Kubai is saying.
I was getting more and more concerned because, yes, there's a lot of things people relate to with like, oh, I forgot, I'm walking to a room and I forget. There's moments where I'll get up from the bed that I'm lying from because I had to go do something, whatever it was, I'll forget that. It's like a request I'm giving my life and I have to ask again and again and again. So there's not a big part of me that just doesn't think any of this is real. But I never moved it.
It's real. That's your 4-month-old daughter. Right there. That it's real.
I wouldn't do something like that. I know
Those
myself
bruises don't just show up overnight. Those bruises, they don't just show up overnight. A skull fracture doesn't just show up overnight. Something is done to make those things happen.
But that's how injuries go.
What happened when I showed them?
I
Did
don't.
Did the voices tell you something?
Not that I know, because all I do know is what I've told you.
Then why did you want to come back in here and talk?
A realization of sorts.
You what?
A realization of sorts. That I don't think any of this is real.
It's real. Okay? It's real. And Strawberry, according to the medical examiner's office, was hurt in your care. And she went unresponsive, brain dead, and she died. It's real.
And I'd like to go ahead and believe you, but as I've stated, I think from that point onward, from that point, I don't believe this is real. I don't believe I'm married. I don't believe that.
You don't believe you're married?
I don't believe I'm married. I don't believe I ever had my first job. I don't believe I have a car.
Jacob Kubai is actually telling detectives that he doesn't believe anything that is happening at that point is real.
I don't believe any.
Why do you
of
feel
this.
like that all of a sudden? After this incident this night, why all of a sudden do you feel all those things?
You know how you're saying that I don't get time to myself?
Yeah.
Or how I said that, whatever it is, right? The point is, I don't get time myself to think. Not in my sleep, not any time, basically. I'm sitting here wondering how.
Well, because Strawberry's died. That's why. And she died in your care. That's why you're here. Okay?
In this, whatever this is.
And it's real.
I don't.
Have you ever seen a doctor for this before? You're hearing voices?
No, I have not.
Did you tell the doctor up in Georgia that you were hearing voices?
No.
Have you ever told it to anybody other than the two of us sitting in front of you right now?
Possibly my wife that I had an experience like I was talking about that day. And I believe I mentioned
What day? That day?
No.
What day are you talking about?
The day when I did hear that.
Kubai told the detectives that he once told his wife that he heard a voice tell him to kill his brother-in-law. That's her brother. Then the detectives turn up the heat on Jacob Kubai, questioning his claim that he doesn't remember what happened to Strawberry.
So do you think that something happened to Strawberry and you blocked it out? Because you don't want to think that it happened? Is that what you're trying to say?
If you're asking me personally,
Yeah, what do you think? I want to know what you think. Like, why do you think that you don't remember what happened that day? And then now it's not all real.
because I knew myself back in high school. Okay? It's funny that I still have those traits as from high school, as if nothing's changed. I think it's a coincidence. That's not a coincidence. I also think there's a lot of representation in this whole dream/scenario of how the self-hatred of myself and the depression and everything else, and giving reasons to go ahead and hate myself. Because nothing makes sense. Why the hell am I staying with someone that would go and abuse me constantly? In our beginning of our relationship, we did not start off the best, right? Almost straight away, she finds out about it. And I went ahead and promised her I'd go ahead and change. And I did. But it wasn't permanent, unfortunately. And just everything that's happened since that specific day when I first heard these things just doesn't feel real. I guess there's a part of me that doesn't want to accept that.
Jacob, I think you're full of I think you did something to this baby, and now you're trying to make up excuses as to why you don't remember.
Was your daughter real?
As I told you, I don't think me going to Florida is real. I can list what I think is not real. I don't think that.
Jacob, look at this picture.
No, I don't think she's real.
This is your daughter that you had with your wife, that you legally married.
That you've been taking care of the past 4 months.
While your wife went to work.
That you
2
were
jobs.
That you were able to tell us about in depth at St. Joseph's Hospital. But now, because we're telling you you're going to jail, now you want to say that you don't remember anything and that this is all not real and that you hear voices. I don't buy it. I don't buy it, Jacob. I think you're looking for an excuse and you're looking for a way out, and you're not taking accountability for what you did to your daughter. That's what's so sad about it, is that you're not taking accountability for your actions. This little girl depended on you. She needed you. She can't take care of herself. She can't feed herself. She can't change herself. She needed you. She can't walk. She can't talk. She can't crawl. And you weren't there for her. You did something to her. You got pissed. You got tired. Whatever. She did something that upset you, and you lost your temper. And you hit her head on something, and she went unresponsive. And then she died. And you're not man enough to take responsibility for that. Now you want to say that this is all real, it's a dream, and you hear voices? I don't buy it. At all. At all.
That's fine.
Go ahead and put him in handcuffs, go back to police off.
In announcing the charges, Sheriff Judd described what the autopsy of Strawberry revealed.
And at autopsy, it gave the details. Our detectives said they counted a minimum of 10 strikes to the forehead. Did you hear that? The baby was beaten in the forehead at least by 10 different strikes. 10 ribs were fractured, and they said would have been from a squeezing of the child. In addition to that, this significant skull fracture to the back of the head, the medical examiner said it would have occurred by striking a hard object. The baby was literally beaten to death. And the only person that was home with the baby at the time was Jacob.
And Sheriff Judd made it clear that they had interviewed Strawberry's mother and ruled out her involvement in the baby's death.
We interviewed Mom, and Mom said the baby had no bruising when she went to work. The baby was not complaining or restless as an infant would be that had significant injuries. It leaves only him.
Judd then discussed his opinion about Jacob Kubai's claims in the interview room.
So our detectives, who are simply the very best on our homicide team, try to talk to him. And first he's totally lucid, goes, I don't know what you're talking about. We put him in a cell, told him he was going to be charged eventually with aggravated manslaughter, child abuse, aggravated child abuse. And then when we took him out of the interview room because he wanted to talk to us some more, he started saying things like, none of this is real. My wife's not real. My baby's not real. This is a fantasy. It just didn't happen. He began immediately playing games with us. He showed zero remorse. He shed not one tear, and yet he is literally beaten and squeezed his baby to death at 4 months old. No remorse, no emotion, nothing. Mother responded appropriately when she heard of this injury to her child and couldn't understand how it happened.
Jacob Kubai pleaded guilty to aggravated manslaughter of a child. He was sentenced in May to 30 years in prison for the brutal beating death of baby Strawberry. He's in a Florida prison right now, serving that sentence. And that's it for this episode of Crime Fix. I'm Angenette Levy. Thanks so much for being with me. I'll see you back here next time.